Welcome to the Overcommitted podcast, your weekly dose of real engineering conversations. I'm your host this week, Brittany, and I am joined by...
Hey, I'm Bethany. And I'm Erika.
We met several years ago working on a team at GitHub and realized we were all obsessed with getting better at what we do. We started this podcast to share what we learned, and we talk about anything from leveling up your career or your skills or navigating professional development, all with the goal of creating a community where engineers can learn and connect. Today on Overcommitted, we are trying out one of our new themed episodes, and this theme is called Overrated or Underrated. We are going to go through a list of different topics related to software engineering, some that are overrated, some that are underrated. We're going to give our take on each of them and why. And we're going to just get into it. Are we ready? Are you both ready?
Let's do it. I'm excited for this.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm excited about this one. So we're going to start with some very easy ones. The first one is dark mode. Overrated or underrated?
So I've heard that this has some basis in being better for your eyes. I've always heard it as cool people use dark mode and like noobs use light mode. So, I'm going to say, so I did look into if there's any science behind dark mode being better for your eyes, and it doesn't look like there actually is. So I feel like then it just comes down to personal preference. I feel like the idea that experienced people or real developers use dark mode is definitely overrated, because there are times when you're just working on something and having a little bit of light makes it easier to see. So I think I'm going to fall on the side of overrated as kind of a differentiator between cool people and not cool people.
I like that. I did not do as much research as you, but I agree with you. But I will say I think it is underrated because while we've made a lot of progress with the dark mode experiences and various applications and stuff, even outside the tech world, there are still so many applications that just have terrible dark mode support. They just put it in the corner to check off a box. And I think that both light mode and dark mode should be an equivalent experience. And I think for that reason, because they're not always a typical or a equivalent experience, that it is underrated.
I like that nuance. I put overrated only because I'm definitely a light mode user. I really like light mode. I think light mode's more readable, and I really do think that it's personal preference.
Yeah.
But I agree that, everything should support both, ideally. Yeah. That's
and really customizable UIs too.
Yes.
I am also a firm believer that whatever your color scheme really does affect your mood or your general approach to anything. So yeah, I like the ability to customize depending on your mood or whatever.
I agree. If I can put cappuccino on it, I probably love it.
Yeah.
Fair. Yes. I've been a convert to cappuccino, so much so that now Claude just automatically applies that to everything that it creates for me, because it's I know this is what you like. I'm wow, okay. Don't even have to try. This is great.
Amazing.
Excellent. Okay, next one. Another softball question. Mechanical keyboards, overrated or underrated?
I don't know if this is even a question. I think they're they're awesome. So whatever the rating is, it's probably underrated because everyone needs one.
I'll say they're rated, just rated in the tech world, underrated in the broader sphere. Because I think outside of tech, not many people care about their typing experience. And one of my friends, love you, Emily, if you're listening to this, she's getting into mechanical keyboards with gaming and stuff. And it's been really fun to see her get super into switches and things. And so it's, I think with outside of tech, it's not really a thing. But inside of tech, I think people are very into it. And I love my keyboards. I clearly have a bunch over there. But I think some people are a little too into it. So that's my take.
Yeah, I feel like these are properly rated. I agree. They're rated. I feel like there's a lot of hype, but that hype actually matches reality. So agree that it's more in the development world. I feel like developers we're like more likely to customize our work experience since we spend so much time customizing our development experience. Or maybe we're just more picky. I'm not sure. That could be it too. But yeah, I like it. It took me a long time to get into mechanical keyboards, which is another thing that Bethany, I feel like, brought me into while experiencing that through the last few years of knowing you. And there's no way I'm going back. Like, it's so beautiful and delightful. I just changed my switches the other day and I'm like, this is such a nice way to just like.
Wait, what did you change them to?
So sorry,
We
not
need to
switches,
know.
keycaps. See, I'm a fake mechanical keyboard person still. I still have the
You
same
still should
switches.
post pics.
Yeah, but they're
I'd
like
hope
this
so if you have
pastel-y.
a rainy 75. Those switches are the most
Yeah.
gorgeous, like, feeling.
They're nice. Yeah, but I got these like pastel keycaps and I'm like, it just brightens my mood every day.
Cute. Post pics.
Well, okay. Standing desks, overrated or underrated?
So I think they're underrated. I have had a standing desk for years and only really started using it like the last year or so. And I will say I was very resistant to it. But like now I feel so much more energy. Like I'll use it at the point when I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm falling asleep at my desk. And then that's usually the point where like I really don't want to stand. But then if that's when you do stand, you like end up feeling more energized. So it's like a very counterintuitive experience, but I do think it helps a lot. Again, I think like the health impacts are probably overrated. Like, I don't know, people have like talked about it saving your heart health or whatever. And like, I don't know how much of that is actually true, but from my personal experience, I feel like they're underrated because I've heard other people say the exact same thing where they've had a standing desk and they never use it. I'm like, try it. Please try it. Like, yeah, even if it's like 15 minutes of standing and then you go back down, like it can make a big difference.
All right, maybe I'll stand right now to
I know.
do your
Thank
tips.
you.
I personally underrate it. I know I should stand more, and yet when I'm tired, I sit on my futon that's behind me instead, which is probably not great. So I completely agree that they are likely underrated, and I underuse mine.
Yeah. Erika, how do you like remember to use it? I feel like that's my biggest. He's gonna go stand now.
Yeah,
I feel like I just never remembered to actually stand.
I mean, do you have those moments where you're like, oh, I feel like I'm falling asleep?
Yeah. And then I
Yeah,
go sit
but
on
like
my
that's
couch.
it's like a
too.
body cue. It's not like some kind of like timed interval or anything. Like it's really that moment when I'm like, I just want to like go lay down on the couch. That's when I stand.
That's smart. Yeah, I wrote down underrated because they are genuinely good for ergonomics. The key though is it's not just standing is good, it's changing positions. This is my rare, hey, I used to work in occupational health and safety and can talk about this thing. But the thing that we talked about a lot in the classes that I took on ergonomics were the best position to be in is your next position. And so like it's really just moving and like getting movement throughout the day. If you stand all day, it's also not great for you. Good. Same with sitting
All
all
right,
day.
so my take is I should now go and sit
Yes, you've done it.
now that
You
I've
stood.
standed. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I just never remember to actually use it. I should. I know I should, but I get sucked into a thing and then I think I need like a little timer. I've been debating making like a little timer app on my computer to remind me like, oh, hey, it's time to go stand. And it's so easy to make things now. I might as well do that. Excellent. Next one up. Vim or heavily customized editors, underrated or
Well,
overrated?
you know what I'm going to say. I think it's underrated. I think you should customize to your heart's content. So,
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna go on the like middle of the road, like rated thing here because I feel like the people who really enjoy this are the people who have spent the time to learn all the key bindings, like spent that time. So for me, like somebody who is not used Vim before. It is a fairly steep learning curve, and I'm constantly like, what is going to be the trade-off on the other side if I spend all this time to learn Vim, like what will meaningfully change about my experience? And I'm not convinced yet that like it will meaningfully change my development experience to a point where I'm gonna like sink that time in. But I feel like for the people who do that and already have the base knowledge, they love it. So I'm not here to like, poo-poo anybody's joy.
I think that like no matter which side you are on, like whether you like customizing or not, like you will always get made fun of for it. So you should just do whatever you want. So I support you, Erika, in not using Vim.
Marie Kondo, your experience. Make sure that you are doing whatever sparks joy. Yeah, I like that.
100%.
Yeah, I feel like I was on the side of hating this for a long time. Just personally, I was like, I'm not going to take the time to learn all those key bindings or customize things. And now that is not who I am anymore. People can change over time. I feel like I have spent a bit of time getting into my ghosty customization, my Z shell after we had Robbie on, all of those things. I think part of that is just like getting exposed to more people in tech that are doing things differently. So I agree. Rated. The people who are passionate about it are very passionate already. And I feel like that passion is earned. Not looking at anyone on this call in particular. I appreciate you, Bethany. Amazing. And I feel like this kind of goes with that. Dotfiles, underrated or overrated?
I would say underrated. It took me a while to learn what dotfiles even are, and now that I know what they are, they're super useful. I use them for like custom instructions. I use them for all sorts of things. And yeah, that to me is like useful customization of like my workspace doing a thing specifically. Yeah, but it wasn't something that like I learned until I joined GitHub, really.
Yeah, no, that's real. I completely agree. I think like we talk about in programming, functions are what you use to make sure like things are reproducible. And I think dot files are like functions for your like configuration or how your editor, no matter how much or how little you like things configured. I'm sure people have like their preferences, and just having like dot files and even just like throwing it in a repo so you can pull it on whatever your new machine is like a huge time saver. And if you ever get a new machine, you don't have to guess what your configuration was. You can just do there. And also, if you change it in a way you don't like, you can revert it easily. So I agree. Underrated. They are so useful. You can get as like deep or as shallow into it as you want, which is great.
Yeah, I feel like these were more key when I worked at GitHub and was using code spaces all the time too, especially if you're doing some sort of like throwaway environment or ephemeral. Sounds nicer than throwaway environment, but something temporary, then like customizing that in a consistent way is super key. And I actually just got a new computer recently, and the main reason I haven't moved is because of like the pain that comes with setting up a new environment. So yeah, I agree. Underrated. Should use them more to save that pain. Awesome. All right. So now we're going to move a little bit into practices and processes. So the first one, pair programming. Underrated or overrated?
I think we've talked about this before, and I still love pairing because at the end of the day, like software is still a mental model. And no matter how it's implemented, hearing somebody walk you through their thought process, whether or not it's assisted by AI, is so useful because you get all those details of what they're thinking, why they're thinking it. If you don't hear it from the person who wrote it, like you can guess, you can be like, well, I think that this is why you would do that, but you don't know for sure. So yeah, I think like we're not dealing with laws of physics here most of the time. Like we're dealing with, designs that people come up with. And so I still think pair programming, caring for people, talking through designs, talking through, the mental model that they have is super important.
I agree. Super underrated. Working with people is cool. Collaborating with people is cool. And I think it's like, it's still worthwhile. Like, I guess an example is I've been like working on a feature for the past couple weeks, and I like made a PR stack for it. It's like I've tested it, it works and everything. Didn't pair with anyone, so now I'm stuck on asking for reviews, and like now somebody has to like either review that and like get it into their mental model, or I have to like explain it, meet with them and explain it. So I think had I just paired more over the past 2 weeks, it would have been a lot easier now, and others would have gotten that experience as well with like kind of understanding the stack. So for myself, I underrate it and I need to rate it higher.
So I'm going to sound like such a jerk saying this, but I think it's actually overrated now, in my opinion. I know. That's a thing that I feel like I was strongly for pairing for a really long time, but I don't know if it's as important.
I am personally not surprised that you're saying this, for the record. Like, this is
Okay.
exactly what I thought you would say.
Oh gosh. Okay, great.
Controversy.
I know. Controversy makes for good TV, right? Yeah, I think that I was like a big fan of pair programming for a long time, but I don't see the point anymore because I have a new pair partner, and that partner is AI tooling. And I use that all the time. And so I feel like since I'm on a team with like a bunch of senior engineers, like if I was on a team with people who are just like getting up to speed in the organization or in software engineering, then maybe I could see a point. But I cannot remember when my last like good pair session was, either at my new job or even at GitHub. Because it had been a long time, I think, since I had like last actually needed a pair programming session to like work through a thing, because AI has like smoothed all the friction that I previously worked out while pairing with somebody. So yeah, I don't know if it's needed in this new world.
Yeah, I think it also depends on the thing that you're working on. And if it's something that's really complicated and you have highly opinionated coworkers, pairing can be the quickest way to get to consensus and get to the end result. If it's something that's a little lower, like threshold, if it's a little simpler and like everyone's kind of vibing and approving, like I guess I agree with you. Like, I don't see the point. So I guess it could be dependent on the project and the work that you're doing too.
Yeah, it's probably like really culture dependent as well. Like, I mean, we were just talking about like async and remote like work or cultures with Ben, and I'm sure if you're a more async culture, it's probably more of a blocker than anything, and helpful to not force pairing as much. But yeah, I think it's very dependent on that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also like you were talking about like the makeup of your team, and maybe if you had more junior engineers, you'd maybe pair more. And I definitely think that's important to recognize too. Like, yeah, I know that I've gotten a lot from pairing in my like earlier days as an engineer, whether it's being forced to say your own thought process out loud or hearing somebody else say their thought process. It's very valuable, I think, because, and like the difference there is from like a mentoring perspective is that humans think differently than AI. Like, you can ask an AI to explain its thought process, but it's not something where I'm going to then adopt that same process myself and use it in the future. But with a human, you might add it to your toolbox and say, oh, okay, next time I come across the problem like this, I'll maybe try this approach.
Yeah, I think it's really crucial. I feel like that's going to be the thing that still survives going forward when people are learning how to become software engineers, because it's just like such a good way to learn how to think, basically, by seeing how other people do it. But yeah, I don't know that I am as passionate of a pair programming shill as I used to be, which feels weird, but here we are. All right, another one that my answer on this one's probably going to be obvious because I literally just wrote a blog post about it. But code review by your peers as a quality gate. Any overrated or underrated? Curious your thoughts.
Okay, as a quality gate is interesting. I've been like thinking so much about this recently, and I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this. But I do think code review is still important. One, for like we were saying, getting a mental model. If people have to support stuff, then they should understand what's happening, or at least have a knowledge of it. And I think like you should still review for like correctness, whether tests like are testing what they should, because AI still kind of goes off the rails on those sometimes. However, I think like for specific qualities, like I prefer like less nested checks or stuff, or I prefer less like defensive guards and things. Those should always either be in like your AI instructions file to like make sure you're like an AI agent isn't like doing those things, or and in your like linting rules so that you can catch those. I don't think like in today's age you should be like reference or catching those on PRs, to be honest. So that's my take. I didn't say overrated or underrated. I think it's rated. I'm just gonna say that, but in different ways.
Fair. Erika, do you have thoughts?
I think it is overrated as a quality gate. I think I have seen people rely on code review as a way to catch mistakes. And I think it's up to you as the author to do your due diligence and make sure that your PR is as good as possible. Like, that's not the reviewer's job to say, like, hey, this is inaccurate, or hey, this is misspelled. Like, that's really your job as the author. So I think I'm with Bethany where like the most valuable code reviews are ones where you're getting some kind of new information, like maybe there's a tool or a library or something that you didn't know existed. And so like the code reviewer might point you to that library. Or maybe you had some assumptions that like it was supposed to work a certain way and it, is not fulfilling that requirement. I do think that in that case, code review is a really late stage to understand that. And really that needs to happen earlier.
I wrote a blog post about this fairly recently and about like loop engineering, which is just like extreme programming already exists, but it's like extreme agentic programming with respect to like the two main things that I think are now very overrated is continuous deployment and code review, like the process of having another person review your code. And shortly afterwards, like a week ago, Steve Yege actually wrote a post that had the same two arguments. So I feel pretty stoked about that, I think. He also said that he spends like $87,000 a month on tokens and then had a follow-up post about agent rights. So I don't think that him and I are quite on the same page about everything, but I do think that there's something to that. I think that like right now, people are still doing human code review just purely because we've always done it. And I think at some point, we're not going to need it anymore. Typically, like I feel like I've used that in the past to be on the same page as my coworkers. And now I feel like that's happening much further upstream where I don't even start the work until anything that I'm not clear about has been figured out. And then I give it all to AI and just merge it. So I think that that's my theory is that that's the future. I'm going to skip a few of these because I feel like we're having really good conversations. Is there any other ones in the practices and process area that you think would be good to talk about? Or
We could do like a rapid fire.
ooh, okay, yeah, let's do that. All right, okay, all right. So next we're gonna do rapid fire the rest of these processes because we're having such great conversations about this, and we all have jobs too. So first one, stand-ups, overrated or underrated?
Overrated.
Overrated.
Heck yeah, I agree with that. Sprint retros.
Underrated.
We don't really have sprints, so rated?
I agree with the sprint part, overrated. The retro part, underrated.
Yes, retros are great. I love retros.
Yeah, I like not having sprints. I feel like that was so stressful working somewhere where they're like, all right, now you have 2 weeks to get this done and you never get it done in time. And then the thing at the end is always like, oh, we pulled in too many things. But yeah, I agree. Retros are underrated. Estimating software.
Okay, so estimates, underrated. Story points, overrated. Like good, solid, well-founded estimates, very useful. Story points or like guesstimates, not at all useful. Waste of time. Don't do them.
I completely agree. Same boat. I think like a lot of engineers hate on estimates, but like help your product peers out. I mean, that's what helps them. That's what helps the business. I think like it's super underrated in the software world. So just like overestimate. That's my biggest tip. Just overestimate your work and you'll be fine. But yeah, I agree. Story points are like the amount of time I've spent trying to figure those out. Waste of time.
They don't relate to time, but you know in your head you are calculating the amount of time every time. Everybody is. Yeah, I agree with that. One-on-ones with your manager. Overrated or underrated?
Depends
Maybe
on
this
the
is an
manager.
awkward one. Yeah. Depends on if any of our managers are listening, I guess.
I don't have a manager right now, so that's fine.
There you go. There you go. I feel like I've never done one-on-ones with my manager well. Like, I think they're hard to understand the point other than, I think the point really is just to like chat and catch up and like have a regular touch point. And sometimes they're really helpful when like you actually need something and it's already on the calendar. But most of the time, I never know what to talk about.
Yeah, I use them as like calibration sessions, but I have a really good manager right now. So she is very honest and like knows how to guide me in the right direction. But in the past and with you, it's been like, how's your day going? What are you doing this weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. They're underrated if you have like a really solid manager and overrated if you don't. So
All right. Microservices. We're moving on to architecture and tools. Microservices. Overrated or underrated?
So I feel like microservices had a huge heyday, and like I think the default of microservices was overrated at some point. I think we've come back around where we're like at a good place with it. I think microservices still do have their place and can be very useful. But yes, the starting point of like everything needs to be its own service is definitely overrated.
completely agree. I think at one point they were overrated, and then people realized that networking across services costs latency and stuff. And then I think we were right sized with or shifted to the right opinion now. So I think it's like in the happy spot, the sweet spot for me.
Yeah, agree with that. I think actually taking a look at what your software needs and what your like usage patterns are is rated. It's a good thing. And making decisions appropriately based on that is the way to go. Serverless. I feel like this also had a moment similar to microservices. It was really before microservices, if anything. And I feel like it's sort of the same like pattern thing almost where, yeah.
I think
Thoughts?
serverless is like marketing speak for cloud companies. So I think it's overrated.
I think it's great when you don't want to manage your own compute and you have something small and simple. I definitely think it's overrated for anything that's more than like a Lambda, like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you all had to do the same trainings with like when I was doing AWS training and stuff, the amount of like serverless posturing, like, oh, we made our entire stack serverless. And it's like, at what cost though? This
Yeah.
is horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it is almost a way to get you like deeply into a cloud platform, really. And then it's really hard to switch. So maybe it is just marketing posture. I think the only place it does make sense is if you really truly have something that is like not frequently needed and like a Lambda is ideal. Like if you have a thing that runs not predictably a couple times a month, then yeah, the Lambda is great for that. But other than that,
Totally.
know.
Just write the
Yeah.
HTTP server. You can buy a load balancer off the shelf and offset that, but yeah.
not right
Just write the
now,
server.
not in this economy. Feature flags, overrated or underrated?
Ooh, underrated, always.
I agree. Underrated. I love feature flags. A little too much.
Hard agree.
Yeah.
I feature flag my feature flags. I like using feature flags for everything. Testing in production is always the way to go. I like doing that.
For sure.
Software rewrites. I feel like this is another one that has some like extra nuance in the time of AI computing.
Okay. I know you wrote a blog post about this one too, which we should definitely link. I'm going to disagree with your blog post though, and I say rewrites are underrated, especially with AI. Just throw agents at it and rewrite your whole stack and design the software you want. Like, I think you should rewrite it.
I think that I think I'm going to fall into the middle ground where I'm not taking a stance on this one. I might be leaning more towards the overrated side, but I have seen them be very useful in some scenarios. I think this is the distinction where if it's sort of like ergonomic or like sort of like a nice to have layer on top of what you're doing, like don't bother. Like hopefully your time is spent doing something else, spent better doing something else. And if not, I would question like if what you're doing is really important. Unless it's like your own personal project and, you know, it makes you happy and then you do you. But I think like sometimes rewrites are oversold to say rewriting this will solve all of our problems, and then you rewrite it and you still have the same like networking issues, performance issues. Like you don't ever solve the like real difficult problems that are ingrained in your software, and that's really what makes the difference. So that's my that's my take as far as like, yeah, I've seen both sides where I've seen the like, or like let's rewrite it in a different language, you know. And even that, like, there can be huge benefits for rewriting something in a new language from performance standpoints, you know, modernization, like security, like there can be huge benefits, but like as long as it's done with explicit intent of taking advantage of that and not like I decided today that I like Go versus Java, and so I'm going to rewrite everything in Go.
Yeah, I feel like all the people who a couple years ago were arguing for rewriting everything in Rust are now having like such a moment because actually it does kind of make sense to rewrite a lot of things in Rust now. I've been pretty staunchly opposed to rewrites in the past, especially on both online and on this podcast. But I feel like that was also like pre-Mythos, where now actually maybe it does make sense to like, you know, now that we're seeing all of these security vulnerabilities in old software that's been around forever, maybe there's something to it. I don't know. So I'm going to go with rated and just don't go read that old blog post, I guess, because they used to be expensive. I mean, they used to be really expensive to do, and now it's basically free or it's like token cost, which is different than time.
Absolutely.
Then axe that. Don't link it. Don't even look for it.
I won't. It doesn't exist. Yeah. Opinions can change over time. Yeah. There's a lot of these that I feel like opinions have changed over time. Okay. Moving on. We have a few more that we'll go through and then call it. Vibe coding. Overrated or underrated?
Oh man. I'm like
Okay.
haunted by the slop PRs I've seen recently.
Are we considering like vibe coding equal to agentic engineering? I don't like the term vibe coding, but yeah.
Agree. I think the term vibe coding is overrated and is overdone. And at some point we need to just call it coding. But I feel like there is a difference between like paying attention and not. And I think that vibe coding kind of covers both of those.
Yes.
Agentic engineering, maybe that's the opposite, but
yeah. You absolutely shouldn't vibe code your work. You should like pay attention and don't give people slop like Erika's saying. Like, I don't know. You should put out in the same amount of effort you want your reviewers to put in, like for understanding your code. But yeah, I think agentic engineering definitely like it is the future at this point, honestly.
I'm also trying to think of everyone overall versus engineers and whether society as a whole has overrated vibe coding or underrated it. I feel like people have probably overrated it because there is so much more to software than writing HTML and CSS or whatever people think. Like after vibe coding an app, they're done with their app. For anyone listening, I'm using air quotes around around several of those terms. So yeah, I think as a whole, vibe coding has been overrated.
certainly been overhyped for sure.
Yeah.
I do think I think there's like a few different futures people have predicted. There's the one where like everybody becomes a software engineer and starts writing their own things to solve all of their problems. And I don't know that everybody's like, this still requires like some knowledge of software patterns or, like, I don't know that that's everybody's wants to solve all their problems with
Right.
software. Also, like that maybe people
Yeah.
will just write things down.
I've
Yeah.
like always had the mentality that everyone should know how to code similar to how everyone knows how to like do math, do English. That doesn't mean everyone's a mathematician or a writer, but like I do think everyone should be empowered to code because I do think it's a helpful skill to have to like automate. Is everyone a software engineer? I don't think so, but like I do think that there's a lot of gatekeeping around this, I feel, and like putting down people who don't historically code or typically code, and I don't think we should be doing that.
That's true. And I'm not trying to do that. I'm only saying like, I think, for learning perspective, great. But for like production ready apps, I think what's being sold is not reality. And like, what's being sold is vibe coding, like vibe coding a production app or And I'm also with you where I feel like this is software engineers saying like, you can like vibe code your way or like software adjacent people. And most people that I know who are not software engineers are probably not going to do that. Like, I very much doubt that they're going to spend their time making an app.
Turns out not everybody tries to solve all their problems with software.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have had really smart and thoughtful friends participate in sort of like vibe coding sessions. There was one that she did that was like, it was kind of like one of these like vibe coding for good type of things. And like, she has a lot of experience in public policy and like has worked in government. And she created something that like ended up getting like used and adopted, which is really cool. So I think in those scenarios, it's great. But I feel like that's more the exception rather the general rule. Yeah.
Yeah. For the record, I totally agree. Like in a professional context, you should have like professional rigor, like with what you're pushing out there, which I think a lot of people do. But some people are just like, I'm just going to throw these out there and someone else can deal with the complexity there. And I do not think that's right. So I feel like I agree with you in like a lot of the scenarios.
Agree. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder when, I'm very curious when that term is going to die. Same thing with like, oh, it's just AI slop. Like one day it's just going to be something from AI. And that's, I don't know. Last one, 10x engineer.
So I think this is a myth. I've met engineers who I would describe as like 2 or 3x. Like I've definitely had coworkers who I'm like, you are, 2 times to 3 times more productive than the average engineer. 10x, I've never seen that.
I completely agree. It's overrated. But we should link it. But Sean Gadecki, who we interviewed before, recently wrote a great blog post on like how being an engineer isn't about how smart you are. It's about, can you break down problems? Can you like slow down the problem so you can process out things? And I think that's really the skills that you need in engineering. And I think that those are just anyone can build those skills. Like not everyone is like just born, oh, I know all this stuff, or like knew what books to read, but anyone can like slow down a problem and break it down into parts. And I think that's really what makes an engineer good, not whatever 10x means.
Yeah, I think the only like take on 10x engineering that I've ever really liked is the one where you like are such a multiplier for the rest of your team that like your team as a whole has more output than they would otherwise. Doing 10 times the output seems unrealistic. But then again, I have been experimenting with this loop engineering thing and am producing 10x, at least the PRs. Granted, I feel like I'm breaking PRs into smaller pieces than I would otherwise. But maybe there's something to that. But I don't think that the people who coined the term thought that this was going to be the outcome.
I love that flipping it too, like of like it's your output and stuff like that, because that typically means you're taking other work from the team if everybody else isn't like putting out the same amount of work. So I think it roughly should be equivalent, like for your level of how much you're putting out. So I think that's a good nuance there.
Mhm. Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you for participating in this. We don't have a fun section today because this whole thing was fun. It was delightful.
It was fun.
Yeah, very interesting conversations here. I dig it. Excellent. Well, thank you, listeners, for tuning in to the Overcommitted podcast. If you like what you hear, please do like, subscribe, follow, or whatever it is you're supposed to do on the podcast app of your choice. It's very helpful for us for visibility. Share it with your friends. Check us out on Blue Sky. And yeah, join us next week. Thank you so much. Bye.